Right, we're rolling. On this podcast, we'll be talking about different areas of business and all things marketing. My name is Dave Doyle.
And I'm Dave Alton. This is Social Antics, another marketing podcast.
On today's show, we are joined by Aaron Mansworth, who is the Managing Director of the Trigon Hotel Group based here in Cork. Aaron, welcome to Social Antics.
David, how are you? Great to join you. Dave, good to see you both.
Good. Are you keeping well?
Yeah, not too bad. Listen, I suppose after what seems like 12 months, but is actually closer to sort of 2 years now, almost at this stage, good to be back operating, having our teams back, and customers coming in the door, leaving happy, all that. So listen, it's positive, thank God,
Yeah, it must have been a kind of a cathartic experience for you almost, because you were obviously still, because the hotels are still operating, ultimately, but not operating at the same level, anywhere near the same level that you wanted to be, obviously.
Yeah, it was a funny one, Dave, to be honest, in that it was very much stop start, but I think our biggest learning, to be honest, early days was after the first lockdown, where everyone sort of had to lock down, and then the following lockdowns you could stay open if you wanted for emergency services and things like that. We made a very conscious decision to stay open right through afterwards, because the first lockdown was very tough, very, very tough mentally. You could see it on people. Whereas what we got through the following lockdowns, we kept people busy, we kept ourselves sort of motivated, involved, and it just worked so much better. So we didn't feel like we were opening, closing, but it just felt we kept the momentum going. And it was amazing, some of the concepts and ideas, and it just meant when we did fully reopen, we were able to hit the ground running a lot more as well. So big learning for us,
And it's not only like, a lot of people would have had the logistics and the nightmare of dealing with one business, maybe two businesses. You're looking after three, and they're not small businesses, they're three big entities themselves. So you have the Metropole Hotel, the International Hotel, and the Airport Hotel. How was that logistically? Like, did you literally just treat each one separately? Like, you have a lot of staff even there to look after in that terms.
I suppose, in a word, Dave, team, you surround yourself with great people, and it means I do very little. I actually look busier than I am. I'm lucky that way, and as most of the senior team would tell you the same. But no, on a serious note, listen, we've great people in all three properties across the entire organization, and you could just feel people pulling together. And logistically it was, you'd have that, but like, again, and not to give them the plug, but I will give them the plug, a massive tool for us that we implemented a couple of years back. We were one of the first implementers of WorkVivo in Cork, and we were the number 3 client back a couple of years ago. Massive, that power of communication, of staying in touch, even with people that weren't on site, was huge for us. We did an awful lot. We did an awful lot online. We did, like through WorkVivo, we had a support hub, where we help people with, financials, and it could have been socials. It was a bit of everything, to be honest, but it was just keeping that connect, and WorkVivo helped us with that. But that doesn't replace the sort of face-to-face or picking up the phone, but it will help us keep it going. So that was a huge link between the three as well. But for me, then it was just driving around my letter that, when I was stopped, I was able to get in there. But as you said earlier, there wasn't huge numbers around, but important to see as much face-to-face when we could,
And you mentioned there that, you kind of kept the thing going and you came up with a lot of new ideas, concepts. Obviously, WorkVivo is one of those in terms of just how you kind of communicate, how you get things done operationally, how you make things more efficient. Is there any kind of key things that you learned from running the hotel group on COVID that you would say, yeah, we're gonna keep that could actually work for us? Like, I'm living actually, I won't tell people where I'm living. I live near one of the hotels that you're operating, and I noticed that the Metropole, and he did the outside area of all that and all that. So it would, yeah. And it's the I know I kind of saw myself. I was like, Jesus Christ, I got that wrong. So, but even the side there now, you're after creating your own kind of sub brands. I think Taco Rebel is one, and you've also changed the Met, so outside is more takeaways and stuff like that. Is there anything else? And talking even to that you would say, yeah, that COVID almost gave us the space to think about these things and implement them that we wouldn't have done otherwise.
Yeah, no, and it's a great point, to be honest, because like I think, you know, if you were to ask me, like the whole area of innovation, like, you know, not to beat ourselves with a stick, but sometimes hotels we get just sort of caught up with, you know, we're going down a certain track, and we sort of stay on that track, and we're good at this, and we don't look. What it really gives a chance to look at, out of necessity in the beginning, was to look at revenue streams, look at different revenue streams, but you know, obviously, and in fairness to the government supports were excellent, you know, and I have to take my hat off. They've been excellent through this, and, you know, they looked after the most important from the word go was the team members. So I suppose with that then, and once you knew that there was a bit of financial certainty there a little bit, it allowed us, right, we can innovate a little bit more. And I think that's what we did. And, you know, who would have thought that we would be going house to house delivering afternoon tea, you know, at the height of a pandemic and stuff like that, when we were allowed to, of course. I'll caveat that, but you know, it just taught us that there's other things out there, not to forget them, and that's what we're trying to do. And like you said there, like we used Harley Street. There was a perfect street. It's been there for a couple of years, and we'd always wanted to do something, but this gave us the push to sort of say, let's get this done. And like we looked at it last Christmas, and we had a little coffee hut down there. Obviously, unfortunately, we're not with Velo at the moment, but I'm sure David's going to work.
Not at the moment. There was the important bit, right?
It is, yeah.
Some points, you know. But you know, I suppose it just gave us a chance to sort of say, right, let's drive on. And you could see people lift, and I think that was a big piece around the innovation. But it also allowed us time to almost align the organisation a little bit more, because one thing we always sort of find tight in hotels is time, you know, and you're always just saying, Christ, I'd love to have the time to do this and do that. But we use that time in terms of alignment, our people, our exec team, you know, and that worked really well. And one other area where we really focused on, maybe as more of a senior team as well, was on personalities and traits and disc profiling, to understand each other a bit better. And I think that was a huge area that's always interested me as well, particularly is, you know, as a team, like we often sometimes look to people that are like ourselves, but like what we learned out of this is, you know, if you're going to surround yourself with people, surround yourself with good people, but with different strengths. And it might seem like common sense, but we don't always do it. So, and you might say, well, what's different to me? And sometimes having that profile in front of you will tell you, but it'll also help you to understand each other. And like one of the interesting things that I really found during the pandemic was people's different reactions. We all hit walls, no matter how strong, how good. We all hit a wall at some stage, and it was funny to see people hit walls at different times, but more so how the team reacted and pulled together to get people through that. And I think that's been immense. And I think is that there was a closeness formed, like at the start of every exec meeting that we would have had. So our exec would be our senior leadership team, say. We had 7 or 8 people on it, and you know, during the pandemic, we were having a 10 o'clock call every morning. We were all pretty much remote. I would have worked every day from site. It was personal choice. I needed to come in and deal with it. But you know, even at the start of those meetings, we did different exercises, whether it was yoga, breathing exercise, a WhatsApp game, or just, you know, it might be talk about our favorite holiday destination. But it also helped us sort of bond a little bit more, but understand, right, lads, we're humans here as well, you know. So I think there was a lot of good practice. And the key thing is, out of all of this, is that it'll only have been good and worthwhile if we put it into practice and keep it and deliver going forward. So lots of stuff. But I suppose I love the innovation piece, really, really, you know, to sort of say there's revenue streams out there, you know. Let's not just stop. Let's not go back to the old way, you know.
I'm telling you now, if I had gone into my boss in work and they had said you're in the middle of lockdown, think of your best holiday destination, I'd have jumped across the table and I'd have strangled them then and there.
Or do your yoga.
Apologies.
I think though, what you're kind of touching on there, like, and that's really, really strong for any business to look at, is like, you know, building that we hear about this word about the culture, and building that internal company culture. And that's not only what you do, like, you've obviously, you're giving projects to people, whether it's Harley Street, but you also have stuff like, you do your yearly award ceremonies, I think you've done Trigon's Got Talent, I seen you cycling to your heart's content there recently doing the charity day, all these kind of events. And it's fantastic for businesses to see it, like, and as you already mentioned, the whole idea of a team, that this is obviously a way that you bring a set of 3 businesses together, to kind of get involved in one project.
Yeah, I know. And what's very important there, Dave, from the outset is, like, we were very lucky. We hired an excellent strategic director of HR a little under 3 years ago. And the word strategic is very important in that title, because you've directors of HR, but we specifically went after a strategic director. Because, obviously we had a lot of work to do around our employer brand and as an industry, and it's something we worked very, very hard on over the last number of years, and we could see that stand to us, and it's standing to us now in terms of the caliber candidate that we get, and and plus I think it does foster a good spirit across the organization, because it was funny that Spinathon you were talking about a couple of weeks ago was probably the first time that a lot of people, even in our organization, had met face to face. A lot of hiring during the process, but the sense of camaraderie even that day, it made me say, Christ, we need to get people back meeting and, team events a bit more and stuff like that. But, like, the whole CSR piece has always been massive to us in Trigon. Even when we started as one hotel in Cork International, we were always on the CSR piece, where it was the Southside Sports Awards, which are now the Community Spirit Awards. And we've always had, a charity of choice. Like last year, and like, speaking of initiatives during lockdown, one I will bring up, which was phenomenal, was coming out of the first lockdown last year, the Rainbow Club down in Mahon. I don't know if you're familiar with it, works with autistic children, and my two own boys attended down there years ago, and was a massive help and support, and we've always stayed close with them personally. But Karen and the team down there are amazing, and obviously for charities, tough time to fundraise during lockdown. But when we were reopening after the first lockdown, we were conscious of, well, we need to come up with an idea of what could we do to sort of test the hotel a little bit, and we were coming up with, do we give away a wedding, or do we do this, or we do that? And so as a team, we sat down and somebody came up with the bright idea. I'd love to take credit, but I can't. Is to raffle the hotel for a weekend, and the proceeds.
Oh yes, yeah.
The Rainbow Club, and by that it was going to go to a family of 30 people that could come for the first weekend, take over the hotel and test a few things for us, and just give us a bit of feedback, and bang, 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 get the staff back reacquainted with meeting people face to face. And we thought, no, great, listen. We remember talking to Karen, listen, we might raise 5-10 grand or whatever. It was 40 plus grand. It was phenomenal. But more importantly for us, like, it got us to test. But it was so great to be able to hand Karen, the check, and Carmel and the team. So I was like, I take all the credit. It's down to me, But Carmel and the team there, they did a phenomenal job. But, like, again, it was creative, but I'm not going to say tick the CSR box, but that's always in our thinking when we're doing stuff. So this year now we signed up with we signed up with Cope Foundation, and so they're now our charity of choice. And as you can see, we're doing massive amounts with them now at the moment, including Ability at Work, which is bringing people into the workforce and stuff like that. And it's just been amazing. And you know what? It just gives us all such a lift, and it's great. And we're lucky that the team buys into it, and it's nice to be able to do that as well. And I think long term, it's not about just helping our employer brand, but we mean it. And I know, Dave, you've been with us before, like, and we care about our people, and we care about our brand. And so that's it. I'll stop waffling there now for a second. No,
not at all. And you mentioned there about hiring and putting emphasis on specific skill sets, or looking after or looking for people, I should say, with people with specific experiences. You even recently done a recruitment day drive where you actually had a physical recruitment day. Like, how you don't see a massive amount of those unless it's big corporations, or a big recruitment company might do it and get different brands like yourselves into a room. But to actually have, we'll say, a local business run the day like this? How important are those kind of days to Trigon?
I think, to be honest, the whole thing really is that you've got to look at every angle for recruitment. And like you know, you were asking Dave earlier about things that we've learned through the pandemic, and it's to look at things differently, look at other options, things that you might have ruled out in the past. Relook at them. Will they work? And like to have it on site, is very important. It was nice. It's nice engagement, but you just don't know what gems you're going to get. So like we've done virtual, we've done on site. There's new campaigns out there for people that want to get back into the workforce that may have been out of the workforce for a long time. And so we look at every aspect there, because like I suppose one of the things that I'd be very, very keen to get the message out there is there's fabulous career pathways in the hospitality industry. Like we've had some fantastic success stories. We did a training management development program over the last number of years, which was accredited through City and Guild, and to see people grow, and like the best buzz I get in my role is to see people develop. I've seen people that have started as KPs and work up as far as sous chefs. I've seen housekeeping assistants work up to accommodation managers, to duty managers, to assistant general managers. That's the buzz. And to see people develop. So I think that but there's routes for everybody. Some people start out in the academic route, and I got to be careful here now, so there's an academic in the room with us. And some people will do a hybrid of both, which is sort of the route that I went, from a family business to college. But I always look back in the practical experience, to people that go completely start with the academic route. There's the others that want to go through a training management program. So that's the great thing about our industry, is the progress, the development. Sometimes you hear about the negatives too much, and I think that perception in our industry has been damaged over a number of years. And I think some of it is a bit unfair, because I think over the last number of years we really worked hard to change that. Maybe we don't sing it enough from the rooftops. And listen, there are still certain aspects that are tough. There's some parts of it are still unsocial hours, but in most other aspects it's moved, and in a lot of cases it's even better. But I think that it's coming back to that options for career pathways is huge for our industry, and I think it's something that you will see coming out from us. When I say us, from us as Trigon, us as the Irish Hotels Federation, working associated with Fáilte Ireland, to really drive this message will be massive. And I know that the likes of Simon Harris and people like that are very interested in this, and there's a lot of work to do. And I think it's good that we've got. I'm not going to say it's blank canvas, but it's a good chance to sort of reset the wheel as well, and work on new initiatives for our industry and really drive it on with passion. But because what you must remember always is our industry about people. It's about people looking after people. It's that simple. So we got to get both sides right.
I think you said there the passion side of it, like, and you already mentioned I done my stint under your umbrella as well for a few years, which was fantastic. And
you haven't recovered since?
I haven't recovered since. No, I haven't stepped foot in the hotel yet. No, not at all. But I think that whole onboarding process is very, very important. And you already mentioned the training and the development programs that you run. But the big word for me is passion. And I've worked in everything from country pubs down Wexford up to nightclubs in Dublin, hotels, the whole lot. I've done it all as well. But it's an industry you either love or you hate, if that makes sense. You can go into it, you can have a bad experience, but I think that's more so down to the person. I think if you love hospitality, you will stick with it and you'll stay with it, because there is such a buzz in dealing with people and looking after people.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, but I'd say unfortunately that we probably won't be able to rely on that number anymore that really just love it and enjoy it, because I think we're seeing numbers dwindle. And see last week, see the CEO numbers and the point levels for some of the main course out there have come down considerably, which is a telltale at the moment. And there's an educational piece around that as well, because I go back to having to educate people of the great options here. There are great conditions. Now we've got to remind people, and I look at career guidance teachers there. We've got to work with them. We've got to work with parents. Sometimes the perception is there. If I have two young boys, like, and if they came to me in the morning and said, "Dad, I think you're going into hospitality," I would be jumping up and down and saying, "Yeah, it's a great, but I want to help you." But a lot of people wouldn't feel that way. And it's until we change that perception, we've a lot of work to do. But as you said, David, when you're bitten by it, you're bitten by it. And there's no better industry. And I think is that we've got to get to the point where people coming into the industry, we can help them find their bug, if that makes sense. Because I got to be careful talking about generational things here now, because I get myself into trouble very quickly. But like we are seeing, different mindsets and perceptions out there. Whereas, for us, we would have been bitten by the bug and it was about the job. Whereas, for a lot of people out there now, it's about the paycheck and, and life balance. And so, and there's nothing wrong with that, because, it's about that reset and finding the fine balance. But yeah, we need more people bitten by that bug,
And what do you think? Because I suppose, if you take my students, right, so business, marketing, commerce, that kind of general kind of a genre, shall we say, like if you look at their top three, we say, companies, who do you want to work for? Inevitably, Heineken will be top, Diageo will probably be second, and then there'll be some other events or something like that third. In reality, a lot of what they would do in those types of jobs is probably very, very similar, actually, to the career paths that you would offer in hospitality and so on and so forth, and particularly the hotel industry in particular. What is it that you would say to, again, let's say a student, and I know you're saying the points have gone down, but let's say a commerce grad or a business studies grad or a master's grad in management or something like that. What would you say to them in terms of, you should go and start working in hotels, you should come work for Trigon, and these are the reasons that you should absolutely come and work for us?
Great question. I suppose, again, I go back to the opportunities, and it's sometimes people think working in hotels is just about serving tea and coffee or making up bedrooms or whatever. They forget, like with us, we have a full digital marketing department. Where you've got, a digital marketing manager is handling a large budget, across a very extensive organization, which is very challenging. So those roles are there. And, you touch on the events role as well. Like a number of years ago, 5 years ago to the date, if she's listening, Sandra, she'll be delighted that I remembered that it was this week, is we hired Sandra Murphy. We created a specific role to create our own events. And we did the Oyster and Seafood Festival, we did the travel fair, we did the chocolate festival, car show, to create a whole list. And I know I've missed ones there, so I apologize, Sandra, if she listened. But the reason being is that those events, that type of event is a massive scale, is very challenging, but very rewarding as well. And sometimes I just think people's perception of what hotel work is very pigeonholed. And that's our fault. We're not, we've got to sell that story better. We've got to get that out there. So I suppose what I'd be saying to you, David, is there's great challenges, there's great conditions, there's great wages, all of the above. I think just that sometimes for us, what we do see is people coming in from other industries sometimes is it's so fast paced because we're 24/7 and there's a lot going on, and I remember hiring, when we hired our first digital marketing manager, a great gentleman, he came in, did a wonderful job. And this was like, I think we were one of the first hotels, believe it or not, in Cork to have a digital marketing manager, if not the first. And like he came in, but like I always remember in the initial conversations was, how are we getting on? And it was just, there's a lot going on. It's coming from all angles, and that's the pace, because like say between three hotels, you could have 10 or 12 different outlets. You could have leisure centre, you could have restaurants, you can have all who want a piece of the pie and who need a piece of it. So again, that's about putting in the proper structured communications, the right teams. But the big learning curve for us was, like in early days, was social media, like the right platforms, and we're very lucky. We have an amazing digital marketing manager. I'm not going to say names, in case anyone gets any ideas or anything like that. But and again, she's educated me in particular about the right markets for the right segments, because we're not here, we need to do this, we need to do it. But it's intriguing, and that's the great thing, and that's what I would say to people about our game is it's never boring. There's always something happening. You're always looking. You're looking at different markets. You're looking at different seasons. You're looking at just it. And if you've got that drive and you want to challenge, it's like Dave said, if you're bitten by that bug, like if you just want to sort of have a box here, and you might find it challenging. Whereas with us, you're always thinking, you're always moving, and that's the buzz. It's not for everybody, but again, our industry, is going to create massive opportunities. But I'd also go back to one of the main reasons why I did hospitality is the ability to travel as well. And you can get out and you can see the world, with those skill sets. Particularly, if you're in a hotel, it's very transferable as well. So there'd be some of the things there.
Is there markets, I suppose, you would have had your probably predominant markets, as you mentioned there, that you would travel and focus on and, bringing in the tourists from those areas. Is there new markets now maybe that you're looking at coming out of COVID and, that restart button is happening? Who are you kind of identifying that you need to get here now?
Well, a great success story for us in terms of markets and brands was the international. Say last summer, like the international was always very reliant on the airport, international traveller, and corporate then off season. But last summer, we weren't going to have any of that business. So we sort of repositioned ourselves, and we always had a family element. We knew we could do that piece well, but we went nuts and bolts family market. And the last 2 summers, it was amazing. So much so is that, the international, about 6 weeks ago, moved to #1 hotel in Cork and TripAdvisor, which has been massive. We've been stuck in #2 behind the 5-star property in Cork for a long time. But we finally moved, and 6 weeks at touch wood now, Carmel kill me, she hears me talking about it. And again, I take credit for that. Is the family market, that was a huge brand, move over the summer. And I think we are going to have to be flexible, because the international market isn't going to come back as strong as we think yet. I had, what was the number I was looking at earlier, was this is coming from a study there that we're on today with STR, and they were saying is that Deloitte are saying that it's going to be Q4 before we really see business travel back to the levels of 2019. So that's going to leave a gap in the market. So we've got to make sure, how do we keep the domestic market going? Because come next year, a lot of them are going to want to leave. You're always looking. We've got to see who wants to travel again, and sort of stagger that. But the good news is that a lot of the tour operators, the Americans, they want to come back. So we just got to make sure that we're ready, we're geared. But again, there's a lot of factors in this. Is that we've had a lot of learnings over the last while. So it's keeping those in place so we don't shoot ourselves in the foot next year and have a silly race to the bottom. Rate integrity is important, because and what people don't understand is that with rate as well, one of the reasons why, and this isn't about rate gouging or and I think there was great value there this summer. You look at it again, speak of our own, I'm looking at the international. There's some amazing family packages there, with Fota, Leahy's Farm, all these add-ons to it. It was phenomenal. The cinema room included, but so that's the important piece, is that we don't lose a run of ourselves as well. But rate integrity is important, because we're going to have a lot of costs coming down the line. Things are getting more expensive, and support to ease back, and we've got to keep our products maintained as well. So we're moving into a very, very interesting year. I think 22 is going to be a fun year, between supports being pulled back. We're going to see international travelers coming back, corporates coming back, maybe not to the volumes that we're used to. So it's going to be interesting. But yes, you're always looking for that new market. And as I was sort of saying, there's even the takeaway market and stuff like that. Always looking where can you generate revenue, but again, you have to be clever about it as well. Where's the best use of your resources as well?
You mentioned kind of digital marketing. You've already emphasized the importance of your team, and you mentioned TripAdvisor there again, which I think is kind of fascinating, the different approaches, the different hotel managers or groups have towards their employees and TripAdvisor in particular. So a colleague of mine over in the University of Edinburgh did a study pre-COVID where he basically kind of proved that if you show up to a hotel check-in desk and you happen to have a TripAdvisor keyring or something like that, you will automatically be treated better by the staff on the basis that, or you could be named in the actual TripAdvisor review, or it could result in bonuses for them depending on the way hotels operate. What do you do for your staff, or what do you think is the best way forward? Because I know some hotels, TripAdvisor is almost like a surveillance tool. If you get a bad review and a staff member has been named, it's Armageddon. But then some people use it then for promotions and things like that. How do you kind of use TripAdvisor? Again, clearly you're using it very, very well, given that you're number one.
I suppose, listen, anything that's going to provide you with learnings, you know, is a positive, you know. And you know, one thing we don't do in our culture is like we don't beat our staff up over, like, if there's mistakes or if there's, listen, these things happen. It's a learning, but like, I suppose a culture, and I'm not sure Dave, would you remember, but like, one thing we've done, and like, I'm based in the international for the last 12 years, and for the last 12 years, we've had a very strong mystery shopper.
Yes, yeah.
You know, so like, we would get a 64-page report monthly where, and we take it very serious. So it all links into one another. So like, it's not just thinking about the one person that's coming in. It could be a reviewer, it could be this. If you get the culture where every single person that walks through your door is treated properly and specially, you'll never have to worry about it. And that's hard, don't get me wrong, but we have a mantra and we have a culture, and it's something we hang our coat on very strongly. It's called PPP, which is our passionate pursuit of perfection. And it comes from the Vince Lombardi sort of learning that, listen, if you aim for perfection, you're not going to ever really achieve perfection, but you will attain excellence as you go along. And we really believe in that. And the reason we do that is that if for whatever reason a team member does something that's not correct, and I include myself because I get pulled quite a bit by some of our team if I'm not doing something right, instead of saying that's wrong, you say, guys, it's not PPP.
Yeah.
And it's a very different feel to say that's wrong, that's not PPP. And they understand that PPP is the culture, and that's what we believe in. And in order to do it right, it needs to be PPP versus that's wrong. So, and we'll always take, and to go back to TripAdvisor, we'll always take the learnings. We take every review very personally, and we look at it. And listen, every now and then, unfortunately, you do come up against one or two, and sometimes it's very genuine and very honest. But I think is that if you know, like, the ultimate trick and the secret to it all is that you've got to catch people before they leave if they're unhappy, or if they're happy as well. But if somebody's had a negative experience, have we got the right tools? Have we got the right mechanisms? Everybody checks out, was your stay okay? It wasn't great. Does the receptionist pick up on that body language and that hesitation? And right, listen, would you speak to somebody? If can I take a minute? And if there's something there, and 9 times out of 10, it's the recognition. And another big piece for us is empowerment. And you talk about, I remember one night we were there and a team member, she thought she was doing the right thing, and she did the right thing. She was empowered, and there was a slight guest issue, and the guest had an issue over dinner, and there was a big family of them there, and listen, they ended up having a minor issue, but she thought the right thing was to comp the entire check, was about €300. And you could come in and you could go, right, no, and throw your toys out. Absolutely not. In good faith, she made a decision and a call to sort of say, right, I'm going to correct this. The learning was there for the guests left ecstatic. And we saw,
I'll see you next week.
We'll be back again. I hope we get one more dodgy starter.
But listen, ultimately, she did what she needed to do. Like, I was lucky. I worked in a lovely hotel in New York, and the mantra of that hotel was that, our job is to get the guests to return with a smile on their face. And that it's that simple. So if you look, and the learning, by that 300 complimentary dinner, it did give us a good segue into a learning, and it sort of said, well, we're giving the empowerment. Maybe we just need to do a little bit of work around that. But the last thing I would have done would have been, come in and chastised and said, It's ridiculous. You can't. People are going to, I'm not going to say make mistakes. They're going to have learnings, and we all did. And we listen. I think of some of the learnings or mistakes I've had in my career to date, like, and that's part and parcel of it. So you know what, and it's if people learn from it and utilize it the next time. That's all we can ask. So that ties into the TripAdvisor culture, in that we just don't focus on a TripAdvisor guest, but it would be is try and get to the culture where every guest is treated the same, and that's where you see your consistency. Because like, for me, I want to see our mystery shoppers, which we take very seriously, and there's massive learnings and trainings out of them for all of us. And sometimes it highlights the most stupid things that you mightn't think of as a hotelier. And the important thing is we're seeing it from the eyes of a guest. It gives us the opportunity. You know, sometimes it might be, well, you've got a round pencil that keeps rolling off the table instead of having a pencil. You know, and you might laugh at that, but sometimes it's a really, really good point, you know. So that's what I would say about TripAdvisor, you know.
I think when you mentioned there about, you know, your job is to get someone to return with a smile, it kind of, you know, we've talked to so many other people about, you know, in terms of marketing nowadays, it's all about stories you tell, building a brand, but a lot of brands are built around a face, you know, or a person or an identity within the business. And I suppose it's very hard for a hotel almost sometimes to do that when it's kind of quite not a faceless kind of thing, if that makes sense. You know, you're building the whole brand and perception on the name or even the logo, you know, so that in-house experience is absolute key for when that comes, because they're not going to come otherwise, if that makes sense. It's all about the minute they come in the door from then on.
Do you not remember those terrible Lenny Henry ads, no? Where he used to go around to the fucking... Brilliant. There's your face to the brand. Okay, sorry, I interrupted.
I'll have to watch that one. But I think that was kind of, it was just catching me there. Like, you know, it's very hard to build a face of the brand for a hotel, if that makes sense, when it's not maybe like something like a family-owned hotel or...
Yeah, and it's hard as well, Dave, because like you can be over branded or over aligned on one person as well.
Yeah.
And should anything happen, and that's where it comes back to culture. It's about we've there's a great mantra that they came up with over. We're great for mantras and but we believe in it, you know. And our sales and marketing team came up with one over the pandemic was I can't, but we can, you know, and you know, and that's what we have to remember. And so like what we want is a culture of when you walk in the door that everybody is empowered, everyone feels, you know, important, both the guest, because, you know, it's very important as well that we get the internal guest right as well as the external guest. And you can see that's my American training, internal and external guests come out to me. But like, I think it's very important to have, because like there's no point having the guest coming in and being completely, you know, looked after if your internal guest doesn't feel the same love and respect as well. And it's about that balance. So if we just hang our hook on one person, and you know, if that person leaves or you lose that person, you're starting all over again. Yeah. So it's about balance, you know, and that's why, you know, you'll see from our own organization, we try and share the love across the organization, but include our people, you know, and I mean across the organization. Like we've done a couple of great profile pieces there over the last couple of months with the Echo on relocations and people that relocated to Cork, and you know, we had some fantastic people included, and really brilliant stories, brilliant people, and you know, and it's to make sure that they feel part of the organization as well. Like there's no hierarchy in the organization, you know, we're one big team. And I don't say that, you say, that's a bit cliche. We believe that, you know, and we try and foster that family feel. Like, and listen, we make mistakes, you know, you hope you get it right most of the time, but there's times where we mess up, but you know, I think the intention is there to do it right, you know.
In terms of your broader kind of business strategy then, so obviously people clearly is at the forefront of your strategy. One thing that I suppose has completely blitzed your industry more than most over the last kind of, I suppose, 10 years is tech and digital in particular. And I'm thinking two main kind of things that have rocked the boat there. One is the emergence of your OTAs, yeah, and your usage of them. And then secondly, then is your emergence of Airbnb and taking some of your market or redistributing the market or possibly creating even new markets. what's your, or how much emphasis do you place, and you mentioned you have a digital marketing team, how much emphasis do you place on technology, what's there at the moment, what's possibly coming down the tracks, and how much of that, like, I mean, I know at the start it was very much, okay, we don't really want booking.com because they take 30% of our bloody margin. As you're coming out of COVID now in particular, where margin is going to be very, very interesting, because again, your supports are kind of slowly going to disappear. We don't really know how the market's going to respond. How are you kind of tackling that kind of digital piece when it's kind of very, very unknown still what environment you're facing into?
Just, that's a very tough, loaded question there now with content, Dave. But
you get used to it after a while.
Take a coffee break. No, listen, on a serious note, like, and I suppose just to start, everything you said there, no matter what happens, you've got to focus on yourself. Like, if you look too much outside of the box and worry about what's coming at you, and what you could include there, as well as competitors and stuff like that. So first, you have to make sure your own brand is right, that you've got your own, that you've got your own house in order. And it's funny, I had a conversation with somebody only yesterday about the emergence of OTAs, and in a lot of ways, it gave us a bit of a kick up the arse as an industry to sort of say, well, we need to refocus. We got complacent, and to a degree, it made us look at ourselves. But again, you have to take on that challenge. How do you drive those people to your own brand web? And that's the challenge. And listen, times are changing. People want ease of access. So we're currently now, say, we're about to start a trial with our own online check-in process for the international, for corporate guests and things like that. So we're moving with the times, and you touched on tech there. I think at times our industry at times was leading, and at other times was behind, because the whole area of AI is important, and we've got to look at all this. And I think the emergence of a lot of the newer type of hotels, the more tech sort of driven hotels, the Citizen M, the Arlo hotels, these sort of chains that, you've got your online check-in in a booth as you go in. You can start to see a few of them come, in Dublin. There's
nuts.
The online
it drives me nuts.
I want to go in brilliant. And I think it's brilliant.
Deal with someone.
Nah.
But see, and this goes back to your brand, and it goes back to, you have to look at what people want. And, that's why we will never go, say the international, we never go full sort of online check-in or machine or whatever. But you do have a certain amount of the market that want that. And particularly with the corporate traveler that just wants to come in, doesn't want to see people. So, and that's the biggest piece for us. It's managing that. How much of your resources do you put in? But you have to test and trial it, and you have to look at it. So say we've got the airport hotel now, not the international, obviously the airport hotel is closed at the moment, because just through the pandemic, and with the airport closed until November, mid-November, it doesn't warrant having two airport hotels open. So we've got to look at our concept and sort of say, what is the guest that's coming back? But you do have to look at it, and to go back to the tech point, and the likes of Airbnb and all those, and you can discuss regulation, and it's unfair, and it's not level playing fields. It's like the student accommodation debate at the moment. There's an awful lot in that field and that area, but you ultimately have to look at your own and say, right, have we got our house in order? Why are people going to pick us over these? And you have to make sure, and it's tough. Listen, when you're handing over 18% commissions and stuff like that, it is tough, but you just have to keep making sure that it forms part of your strategy, that you're just not going to roll over and sort of say, well, that's a cost we're just going to have to suck up, and that's where your KPIs and your targets. If last year it was X% of your turnover, how, let's put a focus and say, how do we take X% off that for this year? And listen, it's a challenge. I think in the advent of ease, people want to be able to book in an app and keep their confirmations there. But are we moving with those times as well? So it's a challenge, but I think it's something there. It's an area, Dave, that we've got it. The tech. I'm just trying to think there now. Even if I look across, look outside of Ireland. There's some good examples coming down the line. But I also agree with Dave in not using that human touch either. So that's the challenge. How do you marry both? But I think what you'll see, and I think what you can start to see in Cork already, is the emergence of a couple of new type of hotels. And it's great, because what we have to look at that, I don't fear them, and I don't say, Christ, another hotel, it's competition. It's another market. Are they appealing to another market that's going to come in and bring new people? And that's what we have to look at, is, and like, how as an area then, or as a region, as a destination, can we sort of say, we're going to bring more people in? And because we have so many offerings, because like, not everybody wants to come and stay in the Metropole 124-year-old building. I know my wonderful personality will attract a certain amount, but the thing is, other people, there's going to be a certain market that won't want to stay there. But have we got that offering in Cork, so that all of a sudden it's not, well, Cork doesn't have that, so I'm going to go and stay in Galway, I'm going to stay in Dublin. So that's going to come in time. And listen, we're very fortunate, and I think, a big shout out to Pure Cork and the work that they've done over the last number of years, and that brand. And Cork has really, outpunched many destinations, particularly over the last 2 years. We've really seen that sort of brand work for us, and Seamus and the team in there have done an amazing job. And so, really, really delighted. Sorry, segue there a little bit. I tend to do that. So.
That's all right. That's all right. Usually these kind of interviews go, we'll ask something, and then it'll go slightly different direction. We're like, brilliant. That's a great story. Happy days.
I think that's important, though, what you mentioned there about the Pure Cork, and we see them across every, city and big town across Ireland, and even further afield. But I do think it's very, very important that, you said you have a marketing team there, that your team get involved with those initiatives, latch onto them, promote them, help them. You're there to help each other, whereas you can see other brands maybe around the place that should be latched onto them that won't, and they're not going to see the benefit from it then, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And listen, unfortunately sit on the board of Visit Cork as well. And when that whole collaboration came about, and you see Cork Chamber, Cork Airport, City and County Councils, and hoteliers, I'm going to forget somebody, retail, around the table, and pulling together, it's phenomenal. And like, if you look at some of the initiatives that have come out from both city and county, it's been phenomenal, and they're great to work with the Pure Cork brand then as well. You saw what City Council and County Council did with with the outdoor dining this year. You saw the interactive maps that were done by the county it's phenomenal. It really is. And at Cork, we should be very lucky, because rather than competing against each other, you can see that collaboration of city and county. So when guests come and stay in a city centre hotel, they're not, if they want more than a city experience, 10 minutes they're down in the metropolis that is Cove. As you know, I'm a Cove man, so there's still the virtues of Cove. But you're looking at they've got that, the community city, or vice versa. Somebody that's staying in the county, that says, I'd like to pop in around the city and see the city. We have both, and we're so lucky, and to see that sort of merge together under Pure Cork is fantastic. And I think it's something we're going to see go from strength to strength, which is fantastic.
You mentioned the outdoor dining there, and the kind of atmospheres that's been built over the last couple of months. We've talked about it here, even that businesses have really embraced it. Like we've already talked about Harley Street there beside the Mesh, that there's a new vibe across Cork, and not even Cork, it's probably across every city and town across Ireland, that there's a different experience now when you go outside. And we've talked about that. We really hope that this stays, that it just, when everything goes back to normal and everyone's back indoors, that we start bringing in the seats, lads. We live in Ireland, it's going to rain, it's going to be these things, but I think we have to kind of combat that. And me personally, I much prefer going out now. It's a much different atmosphere, it's a much different experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a typical hotel. We just have a big lawnmower driving outside our window there at this moment. Apologies.
It's good to see the place getting kept up going.
Dave, listen, if you haven't worked in a hotel, that is typical of a hotel. You just never know what's coming around the corner, which is brilliant.
No, I'm just used to exploding lecture podiums and that type of thing instead, like
harder work.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
But no, to go back on that point, just about the outdoor dining, couldn't agree more. And to be honest, while I think it did spread across the country, Cork, believe it or not, from different forums we're involved with, Cork actually led the way massively. And I think it put it on a national level. And, you know, we're talking about the likes of Princess Street. And like, I've been in forums where people from around the country have said, you know, how was that done? And, you know, who was involved in that? And we've heard so much about this. But I think a great nod of confidence was there was additional funding granted there during the week to outdoor dining to a number of.
Saw that, yeah.
And I think you're not talking sort of chicken feed, like, you know, that was, I think, was close to another million or 1 million or something. It's great, and I agree with you. We need to embrace it. We need to keep it going 100%. You know.
I think that's a very, very positive note to end things on. I think. Thanks very much. That was very, very interesting. And again, I think the core message here is, I think it's your hotel. Your people make your hotel, and they make that brand, and you have your supporting strategy. And then if everyone in the broader region, if you like, gets behind that, then I know it's cliched and I hate cliches, but rising tide lifts all boats and all that kind of stuff. So no, really, really good to hear from you. Thanks very much.
Great, lads. Listen, great to be here. And listen, thanks for having me. And look forward to seeing you in the property soon anyway. All right. Look after yourselves, and thanks again.
Take care. Thanks very much.